Everybody. My name is Betty Dumas Toto from Healthcareforall San Fernando Valley, joining with Healthcareforall Los Angeles in bringing you this community debrief of the Healthy California for All Commission meeting that happened yesterday. I would ask everybody to mute themselves until we, if you have right now to mute yourselves till everybody starts coming in. I think Dr. Bill is going to say some opening.
I'll kick it off to Dr. Bill.
Yeah, and Erica, I want to welcome. Erica's here with me. Maureen, I'm not sure. She might be on her way over to Erica's house. And you see two people
Betty,
in the screen.
Betty, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm on the phone, but I don't know how to mute. So.
Oh, Betty, Maureen, we're so happy you're on.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's great.
Phone,
we hear you.
But I don't know how to mute. So anyway.
All right. So I'm not really sure. I think it's maybe Paul could help out with the muting. What do you do to mute?
Okay.
Tell them to
don't mute. Don't mute just in case you can't.
Lower left.
Yeah. Just don't mute yourself. We need you.
Okay.
Okay, so Erica, we have Maureen Cruz on the call. Unfortunately, technical difficulties. She's not going to be on screen. Erica Ferrestein, who is the co-director of Healthcareforall LA, is going to take it next, and I'm going to see if we could fix problems on the back end.
Okay, and then Betty, just before I get started, if I ask for a slide, can you pull it up or?
I will try to do my best, yes.
Can you start us off with the Kennedy slide?
Ooh.
And it's okay if you cannot.
No, cannot do it right now, but I will get it.
Okay. So, Maureen, Dr. Bill, thank you for standing by and being ready to jump in. We do have Maureen on the phone, so I'll start with her, Dr. Bill, but just be close. Maureen, can you go
Erica,
ahead?
I'm driving to your house, so it's very hard to talk. Sorry.
Okay, so Dr. Bill, if you could go ahead and start us off, Dr. Bill, and just tell us what is single payer and what is not single payer.
Okay, so that's kind of a loaded question, isn't it? Well, anyhow, thank you, Erica. Thanks, Betty, for organizing. Thank you, Maureen. Once you're done driving and can jump in here too. I would just like to kick it. I haven't seen the slide yet, so it looks very cool. Let's see. The fact of the matter is that we are now talking about doing what we are now talking about doing most of the country. Europe did years ago. The British did 3 years ago. We are behind pretty nearly in Europe, every country in this matter of medical care for our citizens. Quote John F. Kennedy, 35th President of the United States, and then I'm getting a disturbing thing that blocks my ability. Oh, 1961. Thank you. Awesome slide. So yeah, what is single payer and what is not? So thanks everybody for being here. Like I said, this looks like a group of my favorite people. I doubt that I need to explain it in much detail to anybody, but what we're seeing is the kind of latest manifestation that's been going on for decades, if not even centuries, of trying to do the right thing. And once healthcare was recognized as a human need, there were
not getting audio.
There were people even going back to
I do not.
The late 1800s.
Hold on one second, Dr. Bill. Paul Newman, could you go ahead and mute everybody except for Dr. Bill and Betty at this time?
Sure.
And could you just let me know when that's done?
Okay. Let me get up.
It's all right. Go. Just continue. Continue. I'll do it. Continue.
Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Bill.
So just the point I was getting to is that it's been this quest that we put on for healthcare justice has been going on a very long time, and it's been very well studied. And as Healthcareforall, rightly points out with its motto, we know that a single payer system will save money and save lives. It doesn't cost more, it costs less than what we're currently paying for healthcare. and will bring much higher quality of standards, not just in the standard of care that's delivered, but also in reimbursement to those healthcare providers. So this is science. It's well-established economic and social science, and it's really science deniers who deny that. And if you have a kind of a hybrid system, like incremental tweaks, well, like the Affordable Care Act itself was a hybrid, of some kind, but you have even more tweaks to that, or you have even a public option. It's no longer a single payer system. And what we're trying to do is to eliminate the waste, fraud, and abuse of commercial insurance and make it all about a public entity that lends transparency, as well as a simplified system for payment and reimbursement in healthcare. So, so I always say, Medicare for all, that phrase kind of embodies what I think, or what I see universal healthcare actually being, which is that all the people get all the care. So in this case, you have expanded and improved Medicare, and it's for all, okay? And that means it is truly universal. And so that's, I think, why we need to exclude other things that the current California Commission, it keeps bringing up, like a public option and other kind of incremental tweaks to the concept, which is really all the people getting all of the care, and anything less is not acceptable. So that.
Dr. Bill, could you, we've seen presidential candidates, we've seen them try to confuse single payer with public option. Could you just give a brief, because I know that a lot of us on here, we understand what single payer is, we understand the difference, but I think it's always good to go over what is single payer. Single payer, like you said, is where everybody has high quality, comprehensive care, everybody, and it's paid for by one public single payer. So the way Medicare, you go to your doctor of choice, you go, whatever hospital, whatever clinic, but it's just that the government, the payer, pays that bill. And there's no, at the time of services, there's no out-of-pocket expenses. So can you talk about, just briefly highlight how public option is not single payer?
Yeah, so public option, kind of adds to the, crazy spaghetti on the wall, thrown on the wall system that we have, with yet another strand of spaghetti thrown on the wall. It doesn't get rid of those parts of how we, especially how we pay for healthcare, that are lending the most to waste, fraud, and abuse. And if you go the other way, start with abuse, okay? So the most abusive part of healthcare is probably big pharma. I mean, even Republicans are agreeing that pharmaceutical, prices should reflect more so what they actually cost to produce and distribute their goods, But then second most egregious is commercial insurance, okay? Because they're making these backdoor deals with hospitals and provider groups that none of us can figure out how they arrive at the prices they do. So that's both fraud and abuse. And then, finally, the incredible waste. And a public option doesn't eliminate any of that. It throws up, this Reagan-esque type of concept that that the invisible hand of the free market system is somehow going to get people to switch over to the public plan because they're going to see how much better it is. Well, insurance companies and big pharma are both, incredibly expert at this point of playing the game so that they can have an uneven playing field. And that means that it won't be fair. It certainly won't be transparent what they're doing. And that's just, as realistic as our monopoly capitalist system that we have. So instead of keeping in the corrupting influences, we have to eliminate those corrupting influences. Now, I would say that that our good friends who work on the platform, the Democratic Convention platform, and even the Sanders Biden Unity Task Force did throw in some qualifiers to the public option in their work that made it, sound at least like it's way more under the control of the public than what I thought it might be. So that's a good thing. They're tweaking the notion of the public option, so maybe it's coming closer to Medicare for all. But it's certainly not by any means, because it still leaves in all those commercial entities that just know how to use and abuse their customers, basically. And we need to not be customers. We need to be patients and in a healthcare system, not consumers. So that's my answer to that. But I think everybody in the room here has their own answer to that, but probably as good or better.
Well, I really appreciate you stepping in, Dr. Bill. Thank you so much. And I think one of the simple ways that I think of public option is that it's still tiered care. And as Maureen Cruz says, separate is never equal. And so if you have a system set up where, people with money can buy this type of care and it's less than care for others, we continue this apartheid system of healthcare. And the only way to avoid that is to have one system where everybody is in, nobody is out, and that allows us to have comprehensive, high quality healthcare for all. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Betty because Maureen is here and I'm going to go get her set up in the backyard. So Betty, can you go ahead and take over?
Sure. Okay.
If you want to go ahead and start talking about commission.
Okay. So I'm sorry because of the technical difficulties. I'm unmuted, right? Okay. So we wanted to kind of give a little basic on single payer because there are other people that are joining us. We're possibly going to get this on live stream soon. The differences of public option and single payer, so people have an understanding. But right now, I'll just give you a brief, people, I'm not sure if everybody was on that commission call. Maybe people are just here to listen to an overview. But I'm just going to give you briefly what happened. And then I'd like to open it up to comments and questions. Everybody can, if you have a lot of background noise, I would say keep yourself muted until you're ready to speak. But I would definitely put questions in the chat. I did get a pre-question from Art Persico. So after I give this just little debrief, he could maybe come in with his question and then people can discuss, what their sentiments were, what they feel, where they think the commission should be at, where it's going, where it should be going. My thing is always urgency, urgency, urgency. And I really thank Dr. Bill for voicing that over and over again at the meeting. It's the urgency now. Now is the time. There's no roadmaps of 20 million different bills that we want to go through and, that stepping stone. So that's what I feel is most important, is that we always understand that there is an urgency to reaching single payer and to implementing it. And so the commission was held yesterday. The commission was developed out of a bill because SB 562 was our Healthcare for All bill, our Healthy California bill was shelved. And because there was such an outrage about it, they decided to pass a bill that they would have a commission to discuss how we would have a unified financing system for our healthcare here in California, not limited to single payer. So I guess different ideas could be thrown in. They would get this commission together. They would give them $5 million of our tax-paying dollars to basically, frankly, do the work where you can, that many, many people have done over and over again. And you could basically Google it. Okay, you could Google all the information that they need. Even as early as like still doing ongoing studies, that even as early as during this whole COVID situation as well. So they voted yesterday on whether to put their environmental report and analysis to the governor. I believe, in my opinion, and other people might have different opinions, that there are 3 very strong single payer advocates on the commission, but only 3. So they are very outnumbered, and they are a minority. Connie Comsty voiced her dissent to the vote. She voted no because she felt like she put a 30-page analysis together of her own to discuss, and it really wasn't incorporated the way she wanted it to be. They also felt there was transparency issues, also transition issues, I believe is what they were concerned with. And the other 2 commissioners, Rupia and I've never pronounced his name right, but Dr. Sao, and they, but Dr. Sao still did vote to let it go through to the governor. The other 2 strong single payer supporters did not want it to go to the governor as of yet. We did break out into breakout groups and discuss the financial, each commissioner or several commissioners in groups with the community people that were watching, went to different groups in Zoom into breakout rooms to discuss financially how we can fund a single payer system here in California. And again, some of the same things that we see in studies that are, you could basically Google, progressive taxes, which is probably one of the better ways to go. We do progressive taxes on, my opinion though, on billionaires. Some that think that is regressive, having sales tax. Others proposed payroll tax, but there was issue again with the payroll tax where they thought that would just give more money to the federal government. But there were people in the single payer that Assessor Connie Comsty was saying that necessarily not would go that way. So anyhow, that's very brief and that's very simplistic. And I would like to reserve the ability to chime in to allow Maureen to say a couple of words. But can nobody hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. You were doing this.
Somebody else.
Like, okay, yeah. But there's a lot of people on here. So that was very simplistic, very, layman debrief or whatever, overview. So I'm going to let people ask some questions. Actually, Art has wanted to say some things, and I'm going to unmute him. You all can unmute yourselves, I believe. We'll try that. But if there's a lot of noise in your background, please just mute yourself, okay? But Art, I'm gonna allow you to, very cute, Matthew, I see that. So I'm gonna unmute Art because he did send me some questions that were very interesting. So.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say really quickly that the context is that Newsom ran for governor on single payer and then he pulled back and appointed this commission. So this commission now becomes, instead of a bill, what we're fighting, how we're fighting for single payer in California. The comment I submitted and question to Betty was I wanted to follow up on 2 concerns expressed by 2 of the commissioners yesterday. and that was the lack of transparency by the commission and the bias, especially in regard to the work for the commission by the Mulkey consultants. So my question is, how can we leverage those concerns to get more transparency to expose any bias against single payer in the process that may wind up in the recommendations of this commission to the governor and our elected officials? So one way I did that yesterday was I sent an email to the commission, Karen Riley, I believe is her name. And I pointed out that the materials provided to the public for the commission meeting, the environmental analysis, mentioned a draft review, mentioned that they had 70 pages of written and verbal comments made by the consumer advocacy organizations and the public and members of the commission. And, as at least one of the commissioners, or both of the commissioners who are, that I heard speak yesterday pointed out, some of their comments didn't make it into the environmental analysis that was finalized yesterday and passed by a vote of 10-2. So I was asking her where and how can all the feedback to the commission in those 70 pages of verbal and written comments be heard or seen by members of the public so that anyone can track and determine what elements of the feedback made their way into the final environmental analysis. And how can we make sure that the biases or lack of transparency are overcome and we don't just become victimized by another game that politicians play instead of supporting a bill for single payer, studying it to death, and then appointing commissioners, the majority of whom don't really want to see it happen.
Does anybody want to take a crack at answering that, or have any comments to Art's
Betty,
questions and concerns?
Betty, it's Michael Leidy. I would take a crack at it.
Okay, Michael Leidy's gonna chime in. So there you go.
Yeah, I would reiterate what I said yesterday in part, that we need to demand that they publish the funding sources of all the consultants, put it on their the commission website. Every commissioner filled out a Form 700, and I think we ought to insist that they post those as well. Those are the conflict of interest forms required by the state of California. And I think we should hammer on the Cal endowment. They keep saying they're not influencing it, but what they admitted was the consultants are choosing who's going to participate in the community engagement process. They're choosing the community-based organizations. They're choosing the co-hosts along with HHS staff. So I think we can demand, when they say things like that, okay, publish the criteria that you're using. How are we insulating those choices from conflicts of interest? The Bob Ross from the endowment put out this outrageous op-ed in Cal Matters where he basically said single payer isn't enough. He hasn't ever studied single payer. He kind of skipped that part and just decided that, oh, I'm going to pontificate on this. And it's very easy to do when you make 600 grand or more a year, as he does, and never really take single payer seriously until, I guess, this week. So I think those are the kinds of things that we need to expose. It might be appropriate to respond to Bob Ross, but I think we need to hammer on the commission that they have a responsibility to publicize the funding. So where did Pacific Health Group come from? That's a corporate funded consultancy. Who are the other consultants? By and large, they work for the healthcare industry. And I think that the public has a right to know that.
This is Maureen. Yes, Michael, I agree with you 100%. But even further than the remuneration, maybe in salaries, and the fact that this gives people a professional platform, maybe who are in academia. It gives people a, an area of expertise and specialty, which makes them sought after speakers, and also they can apply for grants through their universities. But also, aside from the money, I started looking at the consulting firm Mulkey, and who else do they work for? Who have they written reports for? Look at the people that they had listed as their as their researchers, which is Bindman, Jerry Kominsky, who has said he's a recovering single payer supporter. You just follow those names, just Google them, and you start looking to see that this Macaulay is all over the place. They've been involved with Covered California. The endowment has been involved with so many of these groups and these people giving the money. Health Access gets money from the California endowment. So when you look at it, these commissioners at one level or another, they all sit on one another's boards, or members of their group sit on one another's boards. They all have connections. So even aside from the money, which I think is hugely important, we have to look at these connections. But, you know, overall, every single commissioner, I would say, other than the three who are single payer, they benefit in some way from the status quo. And I also am concerned, why do we have 3 commissioners from back east? Weren't there enough people in California who know the California system and situation? Why did we bring in people from back east? That also concerned me. So the fact that this Macaulay group is driving the agenda, providing the documents, that's very concerning. And the fact that these commissioners do not talk to one another, they do not meet in between these hearings. That is really shows an absolute lack of regard for the public. It shows a disdain for their charge of coming up with something. They seem to be unaware of SB 562. They are unaware of the Perry report. I did not see one mention of the insurance industry in the discussion about financing. The bias here is it just reeks, absolutely reeks. So I suggest people write to the governor. Forget writing to this commission, write to the governor and tell him what you think about his commission. Thank you.
Does anybody want to open up on this conversation on Art's question? Have any other questions or comments that they want to propose about the commission's meeting yesterday? Yeah, Matthew Snyder.
Yeah, I teach rhetoric. I'm a professor at a university, University of California, and you can see that the way that the commission framed things, and I think it was Michael Leidy that said this, the way that it was framed was immediately pivoted around notions of taxes. It wasn't like, number one, the ethical thing, which is the ethical obligation we have to each other as humans on this planet to take care of one another, right? And healthcare, the only way healthcare ever becomes affordable and universal is when it's decommodified, in my opinion, fully decommodified, not just from insurance, but in all aspects that healthcare is provided. And then the way that the breakout sessions happen. When I have breakout sessions with my students, I want to have their input. And what we saw was that it's just commissioners talking to themselves in what are breakout sessions, while we all are kind of watching around like kids in the back of the car looking through a window. And so you can see quite rightly how this is being organized. And the way that the majority rule here, unlike the false diversity of having, 3 people from the East Coast, they'll just say, well, it's for diversity. Well, what's the diversity of the panel? Well, number one, it's not people that are coming that are directly affected by this issue, that have a biographical resonance to the issue. Where's the diversity of that? And so those often tend to be the people that are already single payer advocates. And so I think that the things that would be best to do, I think definitely a statewide letter writing campaign, a social media frenzy of people writing about their healthcare costs. And I think also that we ask for immediate transparency of the commission. Show me the money. My organization's about money and politics. And where's not only just the California endowment, but how are they getting paid? Where's their money? Who have they been paid for before to do consultant work? And so we can trace those dollars to their position in power. And so I think that a letter writing campaign, social media blitz, where we talk about COVID, we post it on social media, we mail the letters. And this is something I didn't want to do because I was so busy with work. But when SB 562 happened, I wanted us to actually mail letters to Anthony Rennan and just like dump them off at his office and tell those stories. And we're going to win when we're emotionally framing everything about people suffering. When we talk about the alternatives, we have to talk first about the side of the suffering. And the letter writing campaign and the demand for a full appraisal of the commissioner's conflict of interest. And then we can say, hey, the game's up. We know exactly why this commission's been formed. And guess what? Here are the stories of people suffering right now, right? And I was astonished to hear at the report that there's about 17 people that die a day, because the Anthony Renan body count page I have on 28ers is calculated at 9 people a day. And that now it's at 10,439 people have died since 2017. And that's not counting COVID, and it's not counting new studies. So I think, to reiterate, we need to have a letter writing campaign that's highly visual, that connects to COVID. And then also we have to really get on the fact that we need to see that funding of the commissioners. That's my claims.
Thank you, Matt. 28ers. If anybody's interested in his organization, it's awesome. Also, I have Jeff Tartagia. His hand is up, so I'm going to allow him to speak next. But does anybody have any comments that they want to, or answers to Matt?
Yes, Matt, I thought your suggestion is absolutely what we need. And the comment about the 17, it's at least 17 people a day. That's based on the new study that was in the Lancet from Yale, where they said a minimum of 68,000 people nationally die every year. This is prior to COVID. These are unnecessary deaths. These are deaths that are totally preventable. And these are people, if they lived in any other country with any other system, would not be dead. And this is a minimum. I've also heard other researchers say 80,000 minimum, but this is not even counting the people who died really from not getting access to timely care, but we don't even know that about them. So it's a very, very minimalist number. And worse than that, not worse than that, because what's worse than death, right, is that the tens of thousands of people that incur more permanent disabilities that they needn't incur. For instance, diabetics. In 1 year, California had 7,000 amputations of diabetic limbs. That would be an absolute disaster in another country. Nobody would accept that.
We're in a place where we have to ask for a 20th century idea. I mean, this is how gross this is. We're asking for a 20th century solution in a 21st century country. And this just is absurd, right? That, it's barbarism. Like, people are losing their legs and arms because they're not getting preventative care.
Right. And the other things, entire families are destroyed because of foreclosures of their home, going completely bankrupt. You have seniors putting their homes into reverse mortgages so that they can live a few more years. I mean, the whole thing is barbarous. The word you chose is exactly correct. And I would propose that when every commissioner and every politician and every single person has exactly the same health care as the building janitor, as their housekeeper, as their gardener, which is what single payer is about. Everybody in, nobody out, for exactly the same care. When every single person has the same care, the same access, goes to the same facilities, they will find the money, honey. They will find the money. They will keep the quality high. You will have a fantastic healthcare system.
And that's what Michael Moore makes in the claim about Finland's amazing educational system, is when everybody's in, the most powerful people in the hierarchical system that you live in, they will make sure that those interests are shared, because they're going to get the same treatment as you. And so the people that already have power and wealth and privilege, they're going to make sure it's always great, because it's like it's like the veil of ignorance by John Rawls. Like, if you knew you're going to be dropped anywhere on the earth, you would want the same rights to food, shelter, healthcare, and education that anyone else would want, because it's an extension of the golden rule. And so it's totally obvious that this is the right form. And I totally agree with what you're saying.
Well, at the core, we need a culture of caring, and we do not have that. We have a bigoted, supremacist ideology that says some lives are just worth more than others. And the people at the top are going to decide. When 71% of every healthcare dollar is publicly funded, That tells us that the public deserves the same care, all of us. Thanks.
Thank you, Maureen. Maureen is so on top of it. She has so much information in that brain. I don't know. Just that's awesome. But Jeff Tardia has had his hand up, and then Robert Applebaum is, afterwards. But I believe you all have the ability to unmute and mute yourself. I just want to make sure of that, right? Okay, good. Okay, so Jeff, go ahead.
All right, people. This is Jeff Tartagia. I have been participating since before 562, and we'll say to you is we are still sitting here stuck with, in a sense, Rendon's agenda. And what is happening is just like with the tobacco industry, just like with the oil industry, they're not going to come up with anything. They're not going to propose anything at the end of this. But just like last Tuesday, for the other commission, which is the, should we say, Commission on Aging, that's going on right now, that basically put together finally recommendations on long term, that originally there was 15 of them, because basically 100 of us showed up in March to say this wasn't enough recommendations for long-term care. They came back quickly with 140 of them. This is where our power resides. This is where how we put together a getting for the SSI coalition together, because ultimately we have to get the Department of Finance to propose what would be the financial proposal and budget for single payer. They're not in any way engaged and active. They need to be involved with that. So what I will say to you is we went from Rendon doing a year of committees, 4 separate committees, to this year now we have a commission that's going on. Last meeting they held, when we asked them to bring this back together, they went through and came up with the saying, hey, we need to talk about COVID-19 for 30 minutes. This last time they did environment. The next one they're probably going to do is equity. So the next meeting through here and other commissions, through here, we need to keep helping those single, payers, but know that the only thing we're going to be able to do is get the message out there about single payer and encourage out there is the way we separate and talk about, as you've talked about a little bit through there, is public option is only the insurance. For 20 years, I ran computers in the San Fernando Valley at the Warner Center, which was the headquarters for most of the healthcare. I processed insurance billing and watched the exorbitant cost and difference between what doctors were doing and the other selection of charges and the, so we say, rule book of Medicare charges and how you figured these things out to maximize the medical charges. Europe, you have first the constraint of saying, we're going to take care of everybody. We have to get the insurance companies out and put in the proper place. They should only be doing processing. They shouldn't be able to claim more than 1 or 2% for what they process, what it costs them, and what what would be their margin. Right now, we don't have that. We need to figure out, and here we are. And again, say this is yesterday. We didn't. We went in there, and that's why the first time when they had the public comment on there, I made the comment, why in the world are we looking at environmental when right now people are dying? So I'm going to continue to participate. I'm going to continue to listen. The more information, and I keep inquiring at that consultant office to see what information can be pulled from them. And if you keep asking, they inadvertently will provide you with a lot more information. We just need to overwhelm them so that we have at the next meeting the understanding of what they're doing. They put out what the rest of the agenda for the rest of the year is. We need to, examine that and see the best way. I think we're doing like Mike Leidy proposes and other things. We need to keep hitting at them. At the same time, we need to explain what we not only want, but maybe how do they provide it? Because clearly those commissioners don't understand how to do it. We still hear Wood talking about, I want cost containment.
Yeah.
As the state has discovered, if you bring all the people together, you can do block, doing, which is what they're doing for this pandemic, but we're not using it for medical and procedures either. And that's my comment for you today. And I'll listen to what the other things you have to say, because I'm here.
Thank you, Jeff. Are you suggesting that we call up the consultants' offices and and ask them what they're doing? I think that's a good.
I email them. That's how I get the notices beforehand about stuff that's happening, and learn what they're proposing and doing. I build the relationship. I build it with also various assembly people, and they know when I come in there that I'm going to hold them accountable, and I'm going to keep asking until I get an answer. And if they don't give me the answer, I'm going to go find somebody else, and whether that's Vance or somebody at the Department of Finance. I have a number of people, and that's how we got, after 40 years, the SSI coalition of giving CalFresh, and that's something they work, and that's where I appreciate Kim Wade and why I spoke up for her for becoming by the Senate, the Department of Aging. I've got other projects that are working with her on that, and I will continue. And part of this came out of Kristen's, where said, can you start talking to assemblymen? And that's how I started this out for a few years ago, just not participating and listening, but responding, telling them what single payer means.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. So the next person is going to be Robert, but 1 second, Erica, my co-host, raised her hand. I think she has something to say, but Robert is next, but if you want to comment to Jeff, and also to let you know that we do have a lot of people, but if you could keep your comments and questions, maybe, and talk to about maybe like 2-3 minutes at the most, be appreciative. So this way everybody has a chance to say what they would like.
I do want to comment on Jeff's comment, but just want to say I really appreciate everyone being here. I really appreciate everyone speaking up. All of you are just incredible. And yeah, I see this commission. It is it's bogus. It's a $5 million taxpayer paid distraction that I feel makes Newsom. Somebody mentioned it earlier. Newsom campaigned on single payer, and all I got was a stinking commission. This, I think, makes it look like he can say, well, he did something about single payer, but I think we all see that this commission is going to recommend public option, which keeps, the health insurance industry in play. And all Newsom has to do, if he really wanted single payer, was to demand a bill from the legislators. We need a bill. We need it from our legislators. I saw Dr. Bill, he commented, nobody in the current legislature has the moral courage to stand up for the uninsured and underinsured in California. It's time to vote them out. So Healthcareforall Los Angeles has endorsed 7 candidates that are true Medicare for All single payer champions. You can go to our website and check them out, but our priority candidate is Maria Estrada, because she is challenging Rendon, as you all know, who shelved SB 562. So thank you, everyone, and I am going to turn it back over to Betty to get to the next person.
Yes, it's Robert Applebaum would like to make some comments or questions.
It's more than comments or questions. I'd like to spend maybe as much as five minutes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you lower it? Just, there's a volume is very canned, but lower it a little bit. I don't know. Is everybody else?
I'll back up a little bit.
There you go. Can you can you kind of limit it to about 3 minutes? Would that be okay? I'm sorry. I know I didn't really tell everybody else that before.
I think I'll go a little further, because I think it's important to get a different perspective of what's going on. It is so much more difficult to try to get a single payer plan for one state. I'd like to read from an introductory speech I gave in April of 2016 when I was on the Health Advisory Commission for introducing a movie, Then Fix It. But some of the stuff I put on there I think will be entertaining and relaxing and a better understanding. Admittedly, I saw capitalism is great. We need the strong advancement of innovation and inspiration it provides, but it cannot be unfettered capitalism. We cannot have one industry or corporation or a handful of those who are mostly wealthy buying and controlling our government and writing legislation for their own benefits to the detriment of other businesses, our economy, and society as a whole, especially when human lives are at stake. We do not have for-profit police departments. We do not have for-profit fire departments. We should not have any for-profit prisons, and we're the only major country that relies on a for-profit health insurance industry. Health insurance companies do not provide any medical care. They have a fiduciary responsibility to make a profit for their shareholders. In the early 1980s, when I worked payroll and benefits manager at the American Museum of Natural History in New York, I was upset with some of the insurance companies that were providing for our members. Prices were going up. So I considered establishing our own health insurance company. I knew major corporations did not use insurance companies. They were self-insured, but if you did not have a very large group, one employee could become very ill and blow your whole budget. We did have about 300 covered, and I found a way to buy reinsurance to protect.
Yes, Robert, we wanted to kind of keep this as a debrief of the commission meeting. Perhaps if you have a copy of what you have written there, I could drop it in the chat and everybody can actually access that to read it.
Well, there is an entertainment that goes in here. I thought maybe I can go a little bit longer. I did get a private insurance company to protect the museum in case our claims exceeded 125% of the expected. It never did. But knowing what was happening in the insurance company, I was certain that this would be just a stopgap measure. We would have national health plans within 2 or 3 years. Even though I'm Jewish, I've been doing penance for all these years for that gross error in judgment. We didn't get this single payer. All right. So what happened? It was a goal of the Democratic Party from 1948 to 1992 to create a national universal health plan. Over all those years, the dominance of the insurance industry continued to grow and has grown even faster since. We did add Medicare in 1965 very efficiently within 1 year without significant computer involvement. First Lady Clinton tried behind closed doors with the insurance, but 2003, the Bush administration, Medicare Part D prescription coverage was added, and so were government subsidies to Medicare Advantage insurers to make them competitive with traditional Medicare.
Robert, I'm going to have to stop you there because this is supposed to be a debrief on the commission. We would love to hear more. Maybe you could give me a link to the document and I could share it with everybody that's on the call. But right now, I want to open it to other people that have comments and questions in regards to the commission that was yesterday by the Healthy California for All Commission.
Well, right now on my computer, these are things that I did years ago. I have a different computer and I don't have a copy online. I have copies, but not online.
I would love to get it out. We have emails for everybody that I can get it out to everybody. Maybe you can, I'll get that information to you. I'll email you and you can possibly mail it to me and I'll get it. I'll scan it.
All right.
Thank you. Right. Does anybody have any questions or comments or Dr. Bill? You do.
Well, thanks. And I'm not sure who it might have been Erica or yourself. Just kind of mentioned that, you know, I was feeling during the hearing yesterday that sense of moral outrage, and frankly, it you know, it's carried over from one hearing to the next. I mean, we know that a single payer system will save money and save lives. And everybody's talking about COVID-19 as a magnifier, as that situation on steroids, literally in some people's cases, but it's magnified to the point where, you know, if you looked previously at an index for saving money, like $1 billion for every million of the population, right? That's what Terry said about California's system, was that we would save about $37 billion after providing full comprehensive care to everyone, okay? So it's about 1 billion per million in the population. What would that number look like under COVID-19, okay? Or the one that's easier to imagine, I'm sure, for all of us at least, is preventable deaths, because we know that for every million people who do not have insurance, just as an index, we're not even talking about the underinsured, but every million uninsured, 1,000 people per year die, right? So let's just take that number, which would have been 3,000 or 4,000 per year, you know, back in SB 562 numbers. Now it's, I think from what I'm reading and everything, it's likely 10 times that it would be 30,000 to 40,000 dying per year in California by completely preventable causes. That if we had a single payer system that was taking care of testing, contact tracing, and all manner of treatment that's available, we could be saving 10 times that number, you know, of preventable deaths at this point. And that's what nobody said. All of their panel of academics and experts, nobody said, how much money will we save and how many lives could we save if we enacted this tomorrow, or better than that, today? If we enacted it today, how much money and how many lives would we save by doing it? And nobody on the panel said that. You know, the closest thing, of course, was Commissioner Komsky and Commissioner Rupa, I think, is that her name?
Rupa.
Yeah. And they were fantastic. And Dr. Shao, of course, is brilliant. He's very, very quiet and, you know, mild-mannered, and I think we need bulldogs in there.
No, we definitely do. I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
But he did bring up the point that, you know, nobody was really talking about the savings. He did bring that up yesterday, and talk about how we really need to talk more about the savings. And he referred to, he's from the East Coast, so he referred to, but he's worked on many different single payer. I believe he's one of the authors of the Taiwan single payer model that they have, which has been doing fantastic with COVID. If you want to talk about doing fantastic, they are doing fantastic with the COVID pandemic. And they have a wonderful model to actually possibly do.
Definitely
but,
an icon. Definitely an icon in our movement. And again, I would just say that I'm not an economist, okay, so I can't give you the numbers. Robert Poland and the Perry Group could, and I'd love to see this. But how much money do you think we're spending right now on COVID catch-up? You know, we're trying to catch up to all these expenses because of COVID. How much money would we have saved if we had had a real public system for a real public healthcare emergency that we have now? We would have saved all that money, including an economy that we could get functional again, you know, more quickly, by having people back in the workforce. And all of that would have been if we had a single payer system in place when COVID-19 hit. And the other thing is that this is not the end of it. I mean, climate scientists are telling us there are more pandemics to come. This is a novel coronavirus, meaning it's new. And that's probably because of global temperature rises more than anything. So you can expect more of this shit as we have more effects of climate change. And so the time is now. You know, when that one commissioner said, well, we'll be talking about this subject in December, I said, you know, I mean, those of us left standing will be talking about this subject in December. You know, I thought that was the most outrageous, most egregious statement and demonstration of lack of concern and consideration. So
yeah,
if I had it here, it would definitely be on fire.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, I mean, I was actually on a call this morning, and Alan Minsky was on that call with economists that were discussing, I believe, were you on, Dr. Bill? Because it was not, yeah, okay. So we're, you know, they talked about the fact that we could actually really stop right now and close down for 8 weeks and still, and regroup and get a handle on the COVID situation. One out of 100,000 people, get it down to that. We could actually do that if we stop right now and then restart our economy would not fail and we'd have enough money for the economy. So if we can do that tremendous thing in my mind that blew my mind. My mind just blew this morning. We can have a single payer healthcare system right here in California. We are the 5th largest economy in the world. And the savings would be tremendous. And, you know, there's many different ways to fund it. And actually, the argument between the federal and having it on a federal or state, you know, we are big enough, wealthy enough state to do it. And also, like we always say, Canada rolled it out per provinces. And in actuality, single payer systems around the world, you know, they do it by region. You know, it's administered sometimes by region. So we can definitely do that here. Okay, getting back to the commission, Paul Newman has his hand raised.
Yes.
To say something or to make comment or question.
Yes, no, I was going to make a comment. There's some things that I noticed about the commission that I found to be rather leaning towards, you know, spending money as an end user of the insurance. For instance, first of all, they were comparing it to how it would harm the workforce of the people that work for the insurance companies. But if anything, it would create new jobs. It would stimulate the economy. So that's the first thing that they got wrong. Another thing on my notes, they compared it to Vermont. Now, California and Vermont, California being the 6th largest economy in the world, to Vermont, you know, I mean, they didn't have enough people in Vermont. And secondly, Vermont could always have an interstate insurance, single payer insurance set up where they would get together with Maine and, you know, Massachusetts for that matter. Then they'd have enough people to have a single payer system. And eventually it would just be like a domino theory and all the states would have it like they did in Canada. So, I mean, there's that. They talked about who would be harmed. You know, they were talking about all these workforces being harmed. And, you know, that's basically, they always framed it in as far as the end user, making it cheaper for the end user, but not making it free for the end user, which is us, you know. So that's some of the observations I took from that commission, that really they were very slanted towards keeping it more of a capitalistic for money profit situation rather than, you know,
definitely making accommodations.
Exactly. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Paul. Does, Pat Harvey, she has her hand up, but does anybody have any comments or anything that they'd like to add on to what Paul said? Okay, I think that we got Pat Harvey. You're on.
Here I am. I just had a question about the community outreach that they talked about. Apparently, this huge program is being initiated where they will go out and speak to all these disaffected people, people of color, disabled people, LGBT people, disabled people, and to hear their personal stories, which is very touching and indeed involves a segment of the population which hasn't been heard from in the commission itself. On the other hand, who in their right mind would imagine that they have anything to say, but yes, we need single payer, and yes, we are suffering. And it's good to document that, but I'm curious to know what the rationale of the commission is in collecting this information, and will it be used, how will it be used to further their goal of a unified financing system? it seems to me like it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and I don't see how it is working into toward the goal that we want to see.
I don't think we can.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So,
I have
so-
a response if nobody else does. I have a response.
okay. Maureen has a great response to this. I think I know what it is.
Great, but if somebody else has a response, I don't have a way to raise my hand. I'm sorry. I'm very.
That's fine. But I'll just I don't want Margaret copy. I think she did have her hand up as well.
Let her go. Let her go.
But I think, I'm not sure if it's on the same thing.
That's
I'm looking.
Okay.
Oh, no.
It's okay.
Do you want to take a minute to respond? And then Margaret, is that okay, Margaret? Good. Okay. Go ahead, Maureen.
Okay. I want to say, first of all, it's an assumption, I think, to say that the goal of the commission is to come to a unified single payer financing. I always judge things by its actions. I judge everyone by their action, not by what they say. And the action is exactly what you said, Pat. It is a delay. It's going to take a long time. That's one aspect. The other aspect is we already know the answer to that. There have been dozens and dozens of polls over the last 20, 30 years. Dozens, I mean, dozens of them. They all say the same thing. We already have people's stories. We have outcomes. Anyone who's serious about looking at a problem looks at the data. We have data, we have the outcomes. Nothing has improved since the Affordable Care Act, okay? So we see how people are suffering. We see how many die. We have those numbers. So these so-called focus groups are just a way to delay and to spend our money giving it to various and sundry groups that are going to be chosen by the California Endowment, right? And the third point about that to me is the people who are not being heard now are not going to be heard then. We are not going to hear from the homeless. We are not going to hear from the undocumented. We are not going to hear from people who are so poor and so disengaged that they have no idea what's going on. We are not going to hear from them in these focus groups. So we are either all in this together, as in all lives are equal, everybody in, nobody out, which means that those of us that have the means and the ability to see what is going on, to read those reports, to look at that data, we know the situation and we know what needs to happen. I think the sociology professor Nina Eliasov said very clearly, if you're going to build a bridge, do you ask the man on the street how to do it? Or do you get some engineers? So these focus groups, I don't see that they serve any rational purpose at all. And the people that really need to be, that we really need to be taking care of and looking out for are those that can't do it for themselves. And they are not going to be consulted in these focus groups. I will guarantee you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. And Margaret, please unmute.
Yeah, regarding those focus groups, that, I mean, clearly it's just like a poll. It depends how you frame your questions. You're going to get the answers that you designed the poll to get you to. So, and we know, but so, which tags into my actual, what I was going to ask this group is, given that we can clearly see that this is biased process, and the people who actually are putting together the reports are not the commission, but the consultants, and the commissioners don't get to talk to each other or influence it. They only get to say, no, wait, no, that's not right. And so there's some little changes made. I don't know about you guys, but I've put hours into preparing these written comments that are full of studies and data, and here's why we need to do it this way and not that way, and, you know, don't use a capitated model, and, you know, all these. I'm just wondering if it's just a waste of time. I mean, if we just need to go back to mass organizing the letter writing campaign, try to get the press in there. Or if you think that the more things we submit, that'll be on the public record, and then we can say, well, they got this information from these people, so it was on them to look at it. So I'm just not sure how much more time to invest in the commission. Which is
Well,
what you guys think?
Does anybody want, I mean, I don't want to commandeer. So does anybody have a response to?
Yeah, I do.
Margaret?
I do. I think that there's some crucial things going on, which is the terrain for what's called folk politics is really large right now with the Floyd uprisings. And you're seeing these kind of connect the dots things come into the general strike. And so we can start to organize on a platform that includes Medicare for all. And so that's that way where we do have to look at mass politics. And I think, although I love the folks that are involved with SB 562, I think one of the critical things we missed out was an ability to reach the public by what I call the influencer class. So for instance, one of the first people to sign on for Medicare for all SB 562 were musicians and artists. And we didn't actually have festivals or rallies throughout California to actually shine a light on SB 562. And consistently, no one knew about that bill. I mean, that was just, and I talked to my students or neighbors, even other activists, they just didn't know about that bill enough. And we needed a kind of Bernie Sanders style kind of festivals throughout California that activists and musicians could have organized that would have really just made that, like, made an awareness about the bill, because people don't pay attention to state politics. I mean, people don't even know who they're, yeah. And so I think that's something we could think about, is generating mass politics, like the letter writing campaign where we all write to Gavin Newsom. We post the photos of those letters handwritten and put them on social media, and then, you know, generate that light and heat. Because what was important about Floyd's death and his murder is that there was an emotional impact with that video, right? And that's what we need. We actually have to emotionalize it. And I think the data is important, definitely, but we need to reach people through their emotions. And the Platonic notion of ethos, logic, and integrity, it's actually just really, we're emotional creatures. So if we can find an emotional through line, then we can do this. And I think the general strikes, which I think are quite likely to happen for the first time in American history in terms of national strikes. We've only had one of them in 1919 and 1946, and they're in Oakland and Seattle respectively. So I think we should look at mass politics, because that's really, look at how politicians responded to Black Lives Matter when it was mass politics. So I think definitely keep the data, but you're right. I think there's a good reason to want to think of mass politics.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think that Dr. Bill has his hand. He wanted to make comment to that.
Well, I wanted to respond to the are the commission hearings even worth our, you know, attending, recognizing, whatever. I think Matthew's absolutely right. More visibility. There are people in this room who have done a tremendous amount of work to raise awareness and bring the issue forward. You know, Cliff, I see Cliff Tasner here, you know, who did his amazing creative work, you know, on SB 562. I see Phil Kim, you know, and all your organizing of town halls and things, you know, and you know, yourself, Betty, and lots of folks, Jenny, Carol, you know, but I think that that we're making substantial progress. And us showing up en masse the way we have to these commission hearings has been, I think, really important. Now, is it going to move, you know, these stakeholders? I love that term, the stakeholders in the room, you know, to give up on their states? No, it's not going to. But it shows them that they're not going to get away with their crap. I mean, you know, they can put crap out there, but there's going to be a body of people in the room who are going to hold them accountable, and who knows, have what other kind of influence out in their community. So, and that started with day one, first commission hearing, when they saw that we were inventive enough to use the Q&A as a chat room, because they closed the chat room, right? So we were talking to each other in Q&A, and you know, to their credit, they had a moderator that Karen, somebody, I think she's the one who's moderating the public comments. And she mentioned that they definitely got the sense of urgency from the participants, from the public participants. And they moved that then to a formal public comment, and having that available in the chat as well as verbal comments. So I think that that they can't help but see that there's a movement out there, and it's palpable. And I think we all bring that to these commission hearings, and we ought to just keep at it. We ought to keep at raising awareness the way we have, movie showings, creative projects like Cliffs, and and Matthew, I'd love to see you at concerts too. But we also need to be in the room, because like they say, if you're not at the table, then you're on the table, right?
Thank you, Dr. Bill. Yeah, I on the same thing as I think that it cannot be our sole thing that we do the commission, but I believe that we do need to be on those calls, and we need to be present in the room, and we need to remind them, like Dr. Bill yesterday, that this is an urgent situation. Continuously remind them that this is an urgent situation. And, over and over again, people say things to me, which is just, it's like this slow glacial pace. And I'm like, no, we need that hard hitting, and we need to stay in that room. But we also need to do the things that we need to do on the outside to put that pressure on our governor and our legislators. And like Matt said, it could be the letter, bombard them with letters and put it on social media. It can be even in COVID, it's changing, having these type of debriefs, hopefully live streaming them, which I didn't do, but I will get the recording up. That wasn't technically happening for me, Erica, sorry. But that was not happening. But doing anything we can do to still be activists. We need to still be activists. And Healthcareforall Los Angeles is reorganizing their group to do just that, be active. And whatever we can do, whether it's if it is on the outside, socially distanced and masked actions and caravans and things that we could do, social media and Zoom meetings and education, and we continue to do that, and we continue to push. Lynn Heidekoper is going to be next, but I'm going to let Erica say a couple of words right before Lynn.
Just really briefly, and I do think that to this point that was brought up about the commission, I had been going to police LAPD commission hearings for about a year and a half, and I've learned a lot. And one of the ways that these commissions operate is they think that they're not exposed. Nobody knows them, nobody except for us, whatever, healthcare geeks. So I think that we need to expose this commission. So when we do these other events, panels, etc., we need to name names, and we need to spell it out what this commission is doing. We have to make this public. And the other thing is, Al, who's a member of Healthcareforall Los Angeles and San Fernando Valley,
he's double dipping.
He's got a military background, and so, he spoke to us and said, think of this in terms of the military. What hill do we need to take, right? We don't have the money they have. We don't have the resources they have. So what our groups decided is the hill we need to take is to get Maria Estrada elected, because to boot out Anthony Rendon, my God, if we do that, we have really taken a huge hill. So
that's a huge.
I want to encourage everybody. Everybody can help out. You can go to her website. You can do postcarding, phone banking, texting, donating. So let's boot out Rendon and vote in Maria Estrada. And now I think it's on to Lynn.
Yes, Lynn.
I'm Lynn Heidekoper, Healthcareforall, Santa Clara County. Been working on single payer for 20 years. I've always been concerned that the different groups we're spinning our wheels separately And I would like us to get together with all the groups that Trump organized. And one thing I've been trying to do is get connected with the Poor People's Campaign, which has Moral Mondays. And last week our assignment was to flood Mitch McConnell's phones with not passing a budget for poor people, only caring about money and corporations and stuff. So that's one goal I think would be great if we did. And Kalkadan mentioned, she actually talked about that in her message here, get groups together. And I had another thing, PPC, but the Poor People's Campaign. Anyway, and we had a whole meeting on HCA about whether to continue, what to do with the commission. And I agree with Bill that we still need to bug the hell out of them. Oh, I know my other idea. Because we flooded Mitch McConnell's, how about each group or chapter pick one of the commission members and flood their phone lines? Because we have to be aggressive. They're aggressive with their money and keeping their money. We have to be aggressive because people are dying. And some of the messages we could leave. Moscow Mitch, 2 of his lines were totally flooded and they wouldn't take messages. The third one, I got Lexington and I was able to leave a long, angry message. But I don't know what other people think, but we have to be multi-pronged. And that's one suggestion, is to keep reminding them, we're not going away. We're not just there once every month. We're there bugging them every single day until we get healthcare justice. So let me know what people think.
No, I'll tell you what I think, Lynn. I think that is an awesome idea. And I think that, we can definitely organize around that, where we have people bugging them every single day. And of course our single payer champions will maybe not bug them every day, but we will definitely thank them over and over again. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I think we can get organizing on that through health across the state with Healthcareforall California, with our chapters, all that we have locally in Los Angeles and wherever, and other organizations, because there's people here from PDA, there's people here from all different organizations, and or just representing themselves. Americans for Democratic Action, Cliff Tasner is the president of our SoCal chapter. So yeah, that might be a really good campaign to take on, is bug the commissioners, so they know that we are here and we exist. But yeah, thank you for that. That's great. And I just want to let you know that there has been a lot of pretty decent comments and in the chat, in the Zoom chat. So if you wanted to peruse that as well, it's getting beyond me.
I think I may have to stop. Hit the video button.
There are some links. There's some links and things as well to websites, different people's groups and what they're doing. Does anybody else have any comments? We're thinking that 6 o'clock, we've already, that 6 o'clock will be the time that we close out, but does anybody have any comments or concerns?
Hey, Betty, I want to get on. Betty, can you hear us?
Yes, yes, I hear you. We all hear you. So I'm going to put, actually, this is Maria Estrada, and she wants to say a few words. I'm going to
hold on.
Speaker view. Okay, you're on, but now we can't hear you. Oh, now we can hear you.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm in the car with Linda. I just got home from work. I've been texting everybody because I need the names of everyone on that committee. I actually have already put a list of like Mitch McConnell, Alan Chow, Nancy Pelosi, her husband, Feinstein, her husband, their personal information, their addresses, cell phone numbers, personal email addresses. So I need the committee's name so I could get all of their information and family members' information so that we could start bombarding them with emails and texts and phone calls to their personal contact information, not their offices. I think that's just not effective anymore, and that's the whole reason I go to people's houses.
Well, it's
I think it's really important that we be more aggressive, and I'm listening to everybody, and I totally agree, because there's lives at stake here. This isn't just, we're doing this, to prove a point. Literally, people are dying, sick and dying, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and if we don't get it during a pandemic, when the fuck is this going to happen? So we have to do whatever we can to get their attention and let them know that we're serious and we're not going to go away. So to me, I mean, like I actually asked Linda for this list like days ago, and I haven't gotten it. So anybody has a list of that committee, the names, I need that.
So that, okay, so we can try to work on that collaboratively. Anybody that does have that information is privy to any of that. They could share it with Healthcareforall LA, and we can compile those lists. And the bird dog, Lynn actually said bird dogging. She put it in she's like, and everybody's a direct action. So
follow them around.
Yeah, yeah, we have. So like, this is great. The thing is it's funny because just yesterday I saw Food and Water Watch. Food and Water Watch went over to Hertzberg's house in his neighborhood and protested him. Now, many people feel like this is not the proper tactic. However, when a healthcare issue comes up for individuals, it comes up in their home. They get ill, they get sick, they get kicked out of their house, they get billed. So why is it so inappropriate to go to the people that could possibly be blocking you from healthcare and saying, hey, this issue is in my house and you are blocking me from the care I need, and you're blocking me from being able to take care of my family financially. So I don't see anything wrong with that. Many other people might have different opinions, but yeah, if that's what we have to do for bird dogging, that's what we have to do. We have to hit them in their personal emails and that type of thing. So
other people call.
Yeah, for sure. So does anybody have any comment that it's 5:30 now, but does anybody have any comment they want to add to that?
I want to say we should actually consider maybe creating a shared Google Doc, because there's an old phrase that I know from Occupy, when I was involved with Occupy back in 2011, is the phrase that we used at all the sites. I was at Riverside, was a diversity of tactics. And I think that's the right approach, because it's not just that we want to overwhelm in every angle possible, but one might be more effective as a leverage point than another, and we won't know until we do it. And something hits, you find a hole in the wall and you make that hole bigger. And so I think we should start to organize tactics. The strategy is Medicare for all, goddammit, but we should think about tactics, start to organizing them. And yeah, let's cuss, because that's the truth. If Maria cusses, cussing is a sign of honesty. Cussing is a sign of honesty. We already know that.
And intelligence too.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we should create a Google Doc about the kind of tactical approaches, and then find out what people are willing to do and how far they're willing to go. And you're right. I mean, the civil rights movement, they block traffic. And I get so annoyed when people say, Martin Luther King never blocked traffic. I'm like, you don't know anything about social movement history. And people have lost that sense of how we have to be interrupters, because the true interruption is people's lives. And that's, I think, core thing. So I think a Google Doc, we can share these tactics, like starting to organize festivals, because we have the leverage point in the state. It's a supermajority. This is where you show the contradictions of the Democratic Party, which I'm a member of, because their leverage is here. They're supposed to do the things that they say they do and that they care about. And that hypocrisy is the site of the most potential. And so I think a Google Doc for diversity of tactics that we can share and organize and build from, and then use all those tactics and see what happens.
Thank you, Matt. Danette has a comment, and then Cliff has a comment.
Yeah, just really quick. We know that we need to support local campaigns of candidates. Like myself, I'm running for Orange City Council District 3. Our council has been red for decades. And I know that single payer Medicare for all will save the city millions of dollars. I mean, it's common sense. The financials are there. Dr. Bill has talked a lot about that. And I just think it's a no-brainer at this point, as you all do. I have a launch party on Sunday. If you guys want to go, I would love to see you all. Dr. Bill will be speaking and a few other people about different issues. So I would love to see you there. I'll drop the link in the chat.
Great. Awesome. And everybody, you can save the chat. There's like where you would put your chat. There's like a little thing that says file, but right next to that is a little ellipsis, the little dot, and you could just hit save chat and that'll save it to your computer. Finding it on your computer afterwards, that's always another story, but I'll let you deal with that. So I think Cliff Tasner, and thank you, Danette. Yeah, thank you for running. Cliff Tasner has some comments or questions.
I just want to just follow up with the gentleman who's been incredibly outspoken about tactics, and I really like what he's saying. What's your name? Sorry, what is it?
It's Matt Snyder.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Okay,
So
Matt Snyder, you're awesome, man. I mean, there's so many awesome people on this call. I'm just sharing this. I want everybody to read this article because I think it could really help. This was on Left Coast Forum. Left Coast Snapshot, which is a great compendium of kind of socialist writing on a daily basis, so everybody can read.
put it in the chat bar if you can. That'd be great.
What?
If you can put it in the chat bar.
I just did. Didn't I do that? Did I not do that?
I might have lost it already. Definitely.
Right again. There it is. He said, I'm sorry. I have it privately to Carol Federa. Sorry. Let me.
For some reason,
why do I have to read this
having
article?
private conversations with Carol.
Okay,
For some reason, it always defaults to private messages. I don't know why.
I don't know what's going on. But look, it's better than what we had before, which was nothing. So so the thing I want to just follow up on it. They talk about the civil rights movement, and at the heyday of the civil rights movement, it was incredibly unpopular with the bulk of Americans who were largely white and really didn't understand what was going on or support it. And what gave them some purchase? Well, African Americans were throwing their lives on the line and sacrificing themselves at tremendous risk, tremendous jeopardy. But what they were doing at a certain point was hurting the ability of merchants to make money, lunch counters to make money, buses to make money, the boycott. And that was at a certain point, the people who make money actually don't really give a crap about some of the other issues like racism, sexism. Corporations are perfectly happy to have gay people get married. And the only reason they're willing to support candidates who are against that is because they know that the vast unwashed fundamentalist population is going to be eager to vote for candidates who will limit gay marriage and as a result also help corporations to get what they want. So they've got a great relationship. But the thing is, it takes a small group of disruptors to change the equation. And we have to think about how we can be disruptors. I like your idea of, the challenging Hertzberg, dogging these people. Another thing would be to really start putting pressure on some of these corporations, except for the insurance companies, almost every other, at least every smaller business, every business that isn't making $5 million more a year would benefit from single payer. They would no longer have to insure their workers. And it would be great to start putting some pressure to get those people to call their legislators and say, you know what, I have a business and I am sick and tired of having to pay for health care. Let's get single payer here. We're not going to get the really big corporations on board because they're the ones who are really going to have to foot the bill for what we're trying to do. But they only represent a very small portion of the stakeholders who might have a say in all of this. So we have to think of ways that we can become disruptors. I highly recommend we all read that article and then discuss. So I applaud everything everybody's doing. It's such a great group of people, and the passion is very exciting. So,
and the other thing I was going to add too is that what was also core to the project of the civil rights movement is its multi-pronged effect of reaching out to other organizations, to going to people where they were at. And the civil rights movement wouldn't have really taken fruition without going to the churches, and where you're having an intersectional component of people that believe in an alternative and better world. And so the coalition building is crucial. The right has been doing that very successfully the last 40 years. And even if some of you might be conservative, coalition building is always important. Like it's a way you get in the consensus. And I think that's what Sanders did effectively in 2016 is he said what people had in their heart out loud in these spaces where you heard all the things that these people said, but just being in a space where you feel a sense of belonging is important, even if you know what's going to come out of Bernie Sanders' mouth. And so if we can create that sense of belonging in our movement, that'll be really crucial.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks everybody for their comments and their questions, and the group chat, which is awesome. If anybody wants to, save that, you can and look it over. If you haven't, it's going by pretty quickly. I can't even keep up with it myself. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us today for this debrief and this furthering the conversation and what can we do now? Because now we know that we have this commission that is really, not really going in the right direction, but we'll try to force them that way by staying in touch with them in their meetings. And also now we need to be active and activate and do our activism in all these different ways, whether it's Maria Estrada's, Maria Estrada really, get behind her, whether if you could chip in a couple of dollars or volunteer text or phone bank for her. I think that as progressive people, I'm not sure of everybody's political leanings. I'm assuming if you're single payer healthcare, that you are quite progressive, but maybe you're not. But the thing is that, we have a chance right here to show corporate Democrats that we can win elections and we can primary them and we can have a champion, a progressive champion win the seat. And Anthony Rendon would send a huge, huge message if he lost the seat. I mean, I believe that he's going to be.
It'd be like AOC defeating Joe Crowley for the state of California politics.
Exactly, and I think he's timing out. I think he's terming out. Right? I don't know when he is, but it's a message. It's a huge message, and not to forget, she is a huge single payer supporter. And a huge single payer champion. And I know she's going to do us good when she gets into that office. But okay, I just want to make sure I'm looking. Anybody else want to say anything before we go to maybe closing comments?
I just want to thank you, Betty, for keeping the fire burning. And thank you so much, Erica and Bill and Michael Lighty and others. This is just incredibly inspiring to hear people's stories and experiences. This is a long, long journey, and one day we'll win.
We will, but we're going to make it a shorter journey. We are. I will make sure of it. No, we'll all make sure of it. So, Erica, you're breaking up. Do you want to say something?
If you can hear me, I just want to encourage everybody to check out Healthcare for All Los Angeles. It's healthcareforall-la.org. Matthew, if you can drop me your contact information. In the
no problem.
Chat.
I have Matt's information.
Okay, you've got it. So let's get this spreadsheet going. Love all the creativity, the ideas, the working with other groups and organizations. Thank you all.
Hey guys, thank you.
Hi everybody, thank you. Great job, Betty.
Hi.
Great job, Betty.
I can't unverse myself.
Bye. Bye. Onward.
Hey, Erica.